Hey everybody, Luke Marino here, East Partnership, coming to you guys with Life Cycles Live. This is the first time we've been back in like 2 weeks because I had to do some jumping around for work and take care of some other obligations. And yeah, so we're back and I'm excited to be with you. This is our first live stream on LinkedIn. So this is our first opportunity to do live broadcasting over LinkedIn. So that's super cool. So thanks to the LinkedIn team for allowing us that privilege. And we hope to use this to try and reach some of our audience more immediately here on LinkedIn versus just our presence on the other platforms. So today's discussion, which I try to keep these right around 30 minutes each, is one that's kind of near and dear to my heart. It's also very it's a topic of passion for a lot of people out in the industry, and that's the shortage of skilled labor or trades. And this isn't necessarily just a labor issue. This is a in some degrees national security issue in some areas of the country. It can be detrimental to the local economy in a way that is crippling. So, I mean, this is a really important topic. What's the big deal though, right? Like why isn't what they're doing right now working to try and rectify this? We'll talk a little bit about the landscape in the beginning here, and kind of dig in a little bit. And this was all inspired by a conversation I had with a shipmate and a dear friend of mine, Mr. Dave Gillespie. So, yep, we're here on Life Cycles Live, and of course, as always, this is brought to you by East Partnership. You can check out our site. Wait, hold on, wrong one. There you go, eastpartnership.org. And we basically try to take care of training people who take care of complex assets. We cover everything from asset management to root cause analysis to life cycle management and analysis, RCM, lubrication, everything. So, check us out if you're looking for opportunities with that type of training. And of course, you can follow us on LinkedIn as well. We've got our company page here, and you're already on my page, so you know where to find me. All right, so let's jump into the topic. So there's a very well-known trade shortage, and this isn't just individual trade, right? This isn't just welders or just electricians. This is across most of your skilled labor and skilled trades. So this is impacting electricians, mechanics, shipwrights, millwrights. It's impacting HVAC. It's impacting appliance repair. I mean, you just keep going and going and going, and there's a shortage of skilled tradesmen out there. And to counter this, a lot of the government and corporate and education bodies in this country have been talking a lot, right? Hey, local government, hey, we want to put money into developing local trades and local trade training programs. And the state government, yeah, we're on board too. We want to put even more money into developing trades in strategic areas of the state and trying to build up these areas where we perceive greater good could be had if we provided some resources. And then on a federal level, the same thing is happening, right? They're targeting certain industries, certain states are getting different levels of support from the federal government, different trades and unions and all are getting different levels of support from the federal government. So what's important about all of this is that you hear businesses talking about it. They need skilled laborers to help them run businesses and skilled trades, sorry. And they need the high schools are out there trying to push kids into these programs to a certain degree, right? And the whole conversation about whether you should go to college or go to a trade school has become different than it was, say, 10 years ago, where you may not have had many people pushing for our young men and women coming out of high school to go into trades. Now you're starting to hear more about that. And right behind them is the community colleges. Community colleges are setting up trade programs and trying to take some of that state funding and put it into the local community colleges as a means to inject that support into the local economies and pick up the trade training through the community colleges. And then you've got utilities, you've got contractors, you've got government agencies, And you've got all these people, and they're all shouting about the value of trades and what they want to do to support and lift up the trades. But dot, 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 how many of are actually doing something rather than just talking about it, right? And this whole conversation today comes about from a discussion I had with the owner and founder of the Virginia Technical Academy in Newport News, dear friend of mine, Mr. Dave Gillespie. And you're going to be hard pressed to find someone as passionate as Dave is about getting trades back on their feet. Dave is a career electrician. I met Dave when I was active duty in the Coast Guard, and he was as well. And we were out there trying to make something happen with the influx of people on ships, the young trades on ships, and trying to lift up the young apprentices on the ship. And Dave was a chief, right? And I was a first class petty officer, was just under chief. And so Dave was one of those guys that the crew looked up to. And so when Dave left the military and went into the civilian sector for the second time, because he came back from retirement for 9/11 response and then retired again. It's awesome, Dave. Thank you for your service, bud. He went and founded a company that provided appliance repair parts and supplies, and also taught courses on appliance repair and electrical repairs and that kind of thing. And then from that, it grew into a service business, and from that, it grew into a full-fledged technical academy. So he owns the Virginia Technical Academy. And so Dave has been, in close contact with me throughout the years as his business has grown. And Suzanne, thank you so much for the kind hello and the kind words about the topic, because it's extremely relevant to asset dependent firms. And for those that don't understand what that means, if you own assets and you depend on them for the health of your organization, then you need skilled trades to support those assets. All right. And so where are these people coming from? Where are they becoming trained? Who's reaching out to them to get them into trades and then pipeline them to these asset dependent organizations, right? So that's what Dave does for a living now, is he works with the local government in Virginia, in Newport News, Virginia, to try and attract training resources to support the development of trades in the area, and then give those trades an opportunity to succeed locally through job placement. I mean, he gets grants, scholarships, the whole deal. I mean, he's got vendors lined up to hire these people the day they graduate, right? Seems like a great situation, and it really is. I mean, Dave's doing a great job. The school's fantastic. The courses are amazing. It's very, very hands-on. It's very involved, as a good trade school should be. And they're also very integrated with the local economy and with local business. But the problem is that a lot of the businesses who need trades, and this isn't specific to Dave's situation, this is just in general around the country, the businesses that are waiting for the trades to be developed and provided by these schools, by these trade schools, aren't necessarily very, very strongly promoting the recruitment of these students prior to the school, right? So they're there to catch them when they come out of school, but they're not actively engaged in recruiting them to get them into school, right? So the point of recruitment isn't after they've graduated trade school. If you're smart, the point of recruitment is getting them into trade school. So recruiting them from high school, recruiting them from the local economy, recruiting them from the local job market, getting these people integrated, recruiting them coming out of the military, all right? Post-military, I left the military with a trade. Now, I wasn't credentialed as a civilian, but it would have been a very quick leap from what I had been trained to do in the military as a machinery technician and a diesel mechanic to getting to a credential. So it's very incumbent on the future employers to work with these trade schools to recruit these students into the schools, and then support them through school and then hire them afterward. Now, I understand that a lot of the businesses that would rely on this flow of talent are hesitant to invest too much because they're worried that they'll put a lot into developing these people, and then the minute they graduate, they'll be off to someone else, or they'll come to that company and work for a very short period of time and then leave. So there's some challenges there with, even under contract. There's some challenges there with making sure that the company makes a healthy investment, right? But I'm going to flip that on its side and just say, hey, look, if you're doing nothing to help recruit those students into these programs, aren't you losing anyway? Right? I mean, you're losing work because you don't have people to do it. That's lost profit, whether you have the money's coming to your hands and out or not. That's lost profit. Whether you've taken that money and invested it, it's lost, right? So it's hard to wrap your head around how much of that exists. It's hard to wrap our heads around how much of a problem that is for specific businesses that have the ability to fund that type of investment. It's not fair to put that kind of guilt on small organizations that don't have the leverage to do that. But it is a fair point for some of the larger organizations out there that can absorb some of that investment. So we can't get the students into the schools. So this brings us to the whole national conversation about school being a trade school, or school being a college, or school being a university type setting, right? So when you have someone coming out of, let's say, high school or some type of post-secondary education, they go off to do something, whether it's, get a job out in industry, join the military, go to a college, go to a community college, go to a 4-year university, enter a training program for a specific trade. Whatever the case may be, all of these students are leaving high school and they're ripe for the picking, right? As far as industry is concerned, we had this same problem in the military with recruiting members of the military. Right? We had to compete with other military branches. We had to compete with college. We had to compete with other industries to gain the talent that we needed to sustain the military. And the military is an all volunteer force. So, it's not much different in that sense of obligation by the member between any other thing that they want to do, right? But there's a perception that you'll lose a lot more freedom with the military route. Although, when you start looking at what you gain from it, you quickly realize there's a significant trade-off to the benefit of the young person for a little while there, in the form of steady paycheck, insurance, healthcare, all the good stuff that comes with full-time employment for the government. So where are we now, right? So we have these trade schools that have been set up throughout the country. Some of them have been independently funded. Some of them have been established by states and local governments at the community colleges and other locations. And you've got people now all competing to get these bodies into these school systems, right? Into these trade schools, into these community colleges, into these other certified training organizations that are providing some type of education and experience for these members, sometimes even internships, so that they can become available for the workforce within X amount of months or years. And we've got to start wrapping our head around how to help these schools do what they do best, right? So they're there to train. Their marketing and recruiting is not their primary duty, but it is obviously a significant portion of their business model, as it would be for any business. Now, they're no different in that regard. And some businesses don't necessarily have sympathy for these schools because they don't get funding from the government. They don't get funding from the local and state organizations that are set up to kind of help develop these skill sets. My company, for example, does not receive any type of assistance for my business line. So, hey, should I just say, well, what's their problem? They need to get over it and act like everyone else? No, I shouldn't. That's not very fair, because the service I provide is not the same as the service they provide. We need to start looking at the trade schools much like we do a community investment, right? It's an investment in the local economy. It's an investment in the local community. Some of these people going through trade schools are there because they really, really, really have always wanted to do that thing. Like, they're just infatuated with the idea of being a master welder or a master electrician. This is fun stuff. They've always wanted to do it. They've now got an opportunity to get into the field. They're excited about it, and they're there because they have the means to do it. Some students, they're going there because they really don't know what else they want to do. They haven't figured it out yet. This seems like a solid investment, and they're in a position where they don't really have a whole lot of other options. And maybe they don't want to spend a fortune to go to college, and they're really not sure what they want to do 5-10 years from now. So go learn a trade, get started doing that, get out on your own, get your feet under you, make some money, and then figure out what you want to do long term. There's some of those students. And then you've got people that don't know what else to do. They don't have any money. They're applying for grants and any opportunity they can get, and these become available to them, and they end up in these programs, and they either become more interested in the path or less interested in the path, or they kind of stay in the middle, right? For those that become less interested, maybe they're the ones that drop. Maybe they're the ones that graduate and don't really do much afterward. But for the ones that are there for the right reasons, we have to give them our support. And we also have to make sure that the youth that are being brought up these days don't just see this as a lower tiered alternative to college. I mean, you're hearing that from a guy with a doctorate, okay? I was a tradesman before I was in any way, shape, or form a college graduate. And I think I was a better college student because I had a trade. I think I've been a better manager because I worked in trades. I think I've been a better business owner because I worked in trades. And I sleep better at night knowing that I have a trade I could fall back on should I want or need to. And there's a tremendous amount of security and value in knowing that you have a skill set you can fall back on, right? And so I'll use another example. So my father was an electrician, and he was also in the military, and now he is in training management for a company. And he has no worries about being employable or being able to find work in his lifetime because he has all these different things he can do. And I would compare that to some of the people who I grew up with. Their parents did one thing and never developed an alternative skill or an alternative career path. They never had a trade to fall back on. They never had another profession. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. But it would be foolish to assume that there's not a benefit to having that security, right? So we should be encouraging people to establish that layer of redundancy in their lives, that layer of security. And I think it's really smart for us to look our kids in the face and say, hey, look, you can go to trade school. You can go be an entrepreneur. You can go work for a company. You can go into the military. You can go to community college. You can go to a 4-year university. Any of these things are good because none of them are bad. They're all good. They're all great. If my son or daughter came to me, and I have 2 sons and 1 daughter, but if any of my kids came to me and said, hey, look, I'm really interested in becoming an electrician, I'd say, well, go talk to your grandfather and let's see what kind of opportunities are out there. And it's a noble profession. It's a great living. It's good work. It's helpful. We need electricians. This is good stuff. Yeah. I mean, I'm down, because the alternative is they're unemployed. They're not doing things they shouldn't be doing. They're not in jail. I mean, these are good things. Like these, like to be in a trade is a good thing. So I believe it was an SMRP event in Phoenix back in 2018, I believe. And there was a panel talking about the trade shortage. And one of the gentlemen on stage, and I apologize if you see this and you're like, oh, that's me, and I've forgotten your name, I apologize. But his son graduated from school, and a bunch of his friends went off to college, and they were going into these really expensive degree programs. And his son chose to go into welding and into a trade. And within, I believe it was a year, if I'm not mistaken, he was certified to do his job and making a great income, way more than I was making when I was out on my feet for the first time. And it's just fantastic to have that level of security and higher ability at that age. I was just blown away. I mean, this young man was making as much money a year as a welder as it took me over a decade to even get close to in the military. Suzanne makes a great point here. Plus, it's much easier to pivot to being an entrepreneur. Oh my gosh, isn't that true, right? And so, Suzanne, I love that point because Yes, you get that side hustle, right? So when you become a skilled tradesperson, and you have the ability to do work, you're not constrained to only doing it for someone else, right? You have the ability to do it for yourself. And I did that as a mechanic when I was a mechanic. I would work side jobs, a little bit of side cash. I mean, it wasn't the most fun, not gonna lie, but at that age, I was doing what I wanted to do for a side hustle instead of being stuck with what I could find as a side hustle. It was something I was very good at. It paid well, you know. Um, when I was much younger, and I would go to construction sites with my dad, I would see that the guys running the HVAC and the electricians were working when there was a roof over their head. Right, for the most part, the building was framed. They could work when it rained. There was job security in that. Whereas the guys who did framing, they couldn't work in all weather. I'm not sure if that's changed or not anymore with the advancements, but I'm going to go out on a little bit of a ledge here and say that's probably still true, right? Because a lot of the nature of the job hasn't changed, regardless of materials and technology. You're probably not roofing in torrential downpours, and those electricians that were willing to work in that, when the weather wasn't great, and there was work to be had, those guys were working. They were still getting up and going to work, and some of them were side hustlers, entrepreneurs, and some of them were on contract. And there probably weren't any union guys in this mix because of where we lived, but in many areas, unions provide those same opportunities. So even if you're a union electrician or trades person, they have opportunities for you to do extra work within the union construct. So, Suzanne, those are great points. I mean, that side hustle, learning to be an entrepreneur. I had a friend of mine recently who went out on his own after years of working for other people, and he's like, "Man, I wish I had done this decades ago," because he's doing the same great work he was doing before in his trade. He is older and a little wiser now, so he knows how to manage the business, and he knows what risks to take and which ones to avoid. And he's rolling. He's doing great. He's doing better financially than he was when he was working for other people, and he's booked all the way up for months. So he's a success story, if you will. Mr. Gillespie, who I mentioned earlier in the program, tradesperson turned business person, who owns 2 or 3 businesses now and is doing very well for himself and sacrificed a whole lot to get there. So this is the kind of the fabric. When you hear people brag about the fabric of America, and starting a business and getting out there and do something to improve the economy or improve the industry that you love. These are the people doing this stuff. And then you don't just go from like ground level to management, without all the stuff in between. So to sell people short on the opportunities for future professional employment just because they started a trade school is ridiculous, right? I mean, one example, you can own your own business. What about people that work up through an organization? It doesn't have to be the military. It could be a company. I worked with a company one time where the gentleman who owned the company was a third or fourth owner, and he had worked from the ground level all the way through the company. He had started out in trade and knew that business better than anyone else that was in that room. So it's a viable option. It's a dream we can tell people with confidence that should you choose to go into a trade, you have the world, if you really want it and you do it right, at your feet to either be in a great organization of your choosing, in your own business, the manager or leader of a team or an organization down the road. I mean, you've got so many options. The trades do not cut your options, they provide them. So that's my last big pitch for looking at trades. For the parents out there, I'll be honest with you, you're probably who most of these teams and organizations and schools should be and are targeting, because they understand how difficult it is to make decisions as a young adult, being a teen and trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I don't even know that I still don't know that I know what I want to be when I grow up, and I'm 42 years old, right? But like, it's really difficult when you're graduating high school to figure out like what's next, because for some reason there's this sense of immediacy. Like, if you don't figure out the right thing the first time, for some reason your whole life is going to be askew. and messed up, and you're going to be off track, and you're going to be, looked down upon, and you'll have given up some opportunity. That's just ridiculous thinking. That is not true. So for the parents out there, encourage your kids to look at these options. Encourage them to look at trades. Encourage them to look at other opportunities outside of the realm. My oldest son, we're talking about entrepreneurship already. I'm like, hey man, I think you would, excel as someone running your own business. He'd probably get more enjoyment out of that. Getting him to the point where he's skilled enough to do that and have good investment and the right knowledge to run a business is a big jump. So we have to get him there. We have to develop him, right? So he may have to go learn some trade or some skill set to get himself to the point where he's then ready to market something that's worth building a business around. And yeah, I'm all about doing that. And he may never step a foot in college. And from Dr. Marino, that's okay. I'm telling you, it's okay. Because when it's all said and done, if he's not wrapped up in crime, hurting himself or other people, he's making an honest, good living. He's potentially making a great living. He's working for the betterment of an industry or society, and he's healthy and happy. I'm good. I mean, I know tons of people who have set much higher standards for and expectations for their kids, and they've gone the exact opposite. And just because you barked in their ear college every 5 minutes doesn't necessarily mean they're going to grow up to be great people. I mean, it's really, really, really true. All right, let's see. Bob Latino just weighed in with a comment here. He's been working with local chambers and community college workforce alliances on this, and they are starting to muster interest at the middle school levels. That is tremendous, right? I mean, think about all the cool stuff that these kids are seeing on, and I'm going to sound like such a dad right now, but my kids literally live on YouTube, right? So think about all the cool stuff they're seeing on YouTube that are derived of some of these trades. Like my son came up to me the other day. He's like, Dad, we're going to build a rocket engine. I'm like, okay, where are you getting this from? Where are we building a rocket engine from? But he's been obsessed with watching SpaceX, right? And what they're doing. And now all of a sudden he's looking at this and going, wow, this engineering stuff looks pretty cool. Aerospace looks pretty cool. I'm like, hey, you could be a mechanic in this application. You could be, a person that helps assemble these rockets. You could be an engineer that helps design and build them. You could be someone, on the launch side of this or on the business side of it. There's so many opportunities. So Bob, I'm excited about what you're saying there, because I think the local chambers and community college workforce alliances, they're doing the right thing, right? They really are. And and we do live in a very blue collar area, and there's so many jobs available right now that can't be filled. So my friend Dave that I was talking to, Dave Gillespie, the owner of the Virginia Technical Academy, he told me there are over 500 immediate job fills available to his graduates. Over 500 right now. Graduate tomorrow, got a job. Pick from one of these. 500. I didn't even have that many job opportunities available to me in the military. Right? 500 job opportunities available to him. That's amazing, right? What a cool time to have this opportunity in front of you. So, for the parents that are out there, if you're a little leery or nervous about whether this is really the right thing for your kid, go to the school, go to the technical academies, go to the community colleges, go to these chambers of commerce, go to these places and say, hey, look, I want to get my kid exposed to this. It's not like the VOTEC experience you remember when you were younger. Technology has moved forward, right? Technology has moved forward. When I left the service and I was doing some failure mode effect and criticality analysis for the one and only infamous mentor of mine, all right, Mr. Hank Kosovar, and I reached out into industry and said, hey, I want to do some work. And Hank said, let me get you onto this FAMICA with me. And I handed it into him. He said, hey, dude. I said, what did you think of this FAMICA? He goes, I think you need to turn wrenches again. It's been a little while since you've been working with these diesels, because none of this technology exists anymore, dude. We're well past this now. Right? So even someone that was like only a decade removed from his trade by, getting my hands dirty, was way out of date. Had no relevant context of what a modern high cost, high efficiency type diesel was going to look like until I dug into the tech manuals some more and said, holy cow, you're really right. I need to get someone in here that's got a computer science degree to help me troubleshoot all the potential failure modes associated with the electronic side of this thing. Right? And, if for those that are curious, we were talking about fuel pumps, and I was purely exposed at that point to mechanical and hydraulic type fuel pumps. But there's a lot of electronic controlled fuel pumps these days that just weren't incorporated in 60s and 70s diesels that I was predominantly exposed to as a diesel mechanic. So, anyways, yeah. So if you're in a blue collar area, which is the majority of this country, and you're looking for a job, you need some support. You should be looking at these opportunities locally and get interested in these trades. And I don't care if you're 17, 7, 27, or 57, whatever, your opportunities are there. I mentioned grants and scholarships, and then I'm going to shut up and end the session. There are grants right now available for people to go to school for free. For free. Now, that would have been music to my ears coming out of high school, because I had this much money saved up for college, and I was basically looking at the military as a way for me to get ahead because of the opportunities that the military would offer for the GI Bill and for trade school and all this stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, right now, those opportunities are now available in trade schools that didn't used to exist. So now you could go to a place like the Virginia Technical Academy, and you could say, hey, I'm really interested in becoming a certified HVAC technician or electrician. What do I do? What's my learning path? And they will sit you down and they will mentor you through a learning path, tell you which packages are best for you, tell you what funding opportunities are available for you, and then tell you about job placement. And you're just paving the road for a few years of success here. And when I went to Honda school to get certified to work on Honda engines for outboard engines in the Coast Guard, they sent me to the Marine Mechanics Institute in Orlando, Florida. And I was shocked when I saw that place because it was a far more advanced training center than I had anticipated. And they had 100% lifetime job placement for their graduates. So if you went to MMI and you spent the same amount of money you would have spent at a community college on a 2-year degree, you'd walk out of there certified in half the time with 100% job placement for the rest of your life. Come on now. What are we doing? This is worth looking at. This is definitely worth looking at. Now, put on my manager hat again. I'm working in an organization, which I do, that relies on technical skills, which we do. I need people to enter trades so that I can have a workforce. And so selfishly, I'm involved with the idea of increasing recruiting and increasing retention in these communities. And I think that it's incumbent upon all of us to stop doing so much of this and start doing a little bit more of this, right? Getting our hands in there and getting some support going. So I'm kind of publicly announcing a little bit here that I'm going to be more proactive with this type of stuff, working, moving forward. And I want to help people in my area realize the opportunities that are available to them and help some people establish a really great life that may not think that they can have one. So anyways, that's the big message today. Support your local trades, get out there and do something about it. Help show the people out there, whether they be the young people coming out of school or people more advanced in their life and careers that are looking for an alternative, what kind of great opportunities are out there. Make trades cool for these guys. Show them how cool this stuff is. Work on 4,000 horsepower diesel engines. That's cool, right? Work on, high power circuits. That's cool. Like work on wind turbines and show them that all these trades work on the cutting edge of technology. This isn't antiquated stuff. This is really cool stuff. Howard Pemrose, I'm always jealous whenever I see his posts on LinkedIn because he's climbing some ridiculous wind turbine and all the advanced motor work he's doing. That looks really flippin' cool. I want to do that stuff. Friends of mine that are out as marine mechanics and chief engineers on ships doing that kind of stuff. I still get a little ache inside when I see that. It's really cool work. People working in manufacturing plants with really cool equipment. This is really cool work. And you start at the bottom and you work your way up and you could just have a really, really kick butt career. So anyways, off the soapbox. do what you can to support your local trades. Get out there and be active about it. If you're a business owner like I am, get involved. Start sponsoring these places. Start talking to people. Start doing something, right? Start doing something, not just saying it. And if you're in one of these community colleges, if you're in one of these trade schools, if you're in one of these businesses that is in collaboration with them, find better ways to communicate and collaborate together to try and bring this talent to industry. Okay, guys, that's the big message for today. Let me see, what do I have to do here? I have to go over here. All right, there we go. Check it out. Follow us here on LinkedIn. If you're watching this on YouTube, do the same. Subscribe. That's really important to us, no matter where you're catching us from. If you follow us, because we want to get you guys involved. We want this to be highly collaborative. I want to thank Suzanne and Bob for getting on here today and collaborating and communicating with me. You're both soft targets for future episodes. Suzanne's already been on one, so, and her, by the way, Suzanne, yours is the highest viewed episode yet. Yeah, rock star. She's a rock star. If you want to be cool, hang out with Suzanne Greenman. And I look forward to talking to you guys here again in a couple of days. All right. Be good human beings to each other. Have a great day.